Everybody, welcome to the show. I'm your host, Mac, and today I have a special guest with me. I have my friend Vince. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, how's it going?
All
Good to
right,
see
so
ya.
Vince and I go back a few years, but I do want to tell everybody out there, please hit the subscribe button, hit the likes, leave some comments. If you have any questions or anything for my buddy here, Vince, I will forward the questions to him, and we'll get back to you. So we really appreciate it. So with that being said, thank you, Vincent, for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a
It's my
hot
pleasure.
minute. It's been a hot
Yes.
minute. So you were on my first podcast back in Western New York for my nonprofit company for the veteran stuff. And so we
Yeah.
had a bunch of musicians and different things back during the COVID era on, and you were gracious enough to get involved. So thank you very much for being on that.
Oh, of course. Yeah, it's my pleasure. It's a
All
great
right.
time.
So with that out of the way now, let's get going. Where are you at, Vincent? I'll tell the viewers what town you are in and where they can find you, like on Instagram or Facebook. What's the best place to get a hold of you?
Yeah, so I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. I've been here for about 4 years now. And yeah, if you want to find me on Instagram, it's just at Vincent Bonelli. You can find me there. And Facebook, I think it's at Vincent Bonelli Official. But yeah, I usually post more on Instagram, I would say. I also got my website, vincentbonelli.com, with all my information there as well. So yeah.
I'll throw these up on the screen for everybody to see as we're talking here for a minute about all that. And so when they go on to Instagram or Facebook, Vincent, what are these people seeing? Tell everybody, what are you posting on there? What type of stuff are you doing on there?
Yeah, as far as like what I post, I love to do, like videos, photos from live shows that I play. I also do a little bit of like gear demoing sometimes on my Instagram as well. And yeah, I try to just like promote, local shows, kind of let people know what I'm doing if I'm, fly in to do a gig. I like to take little videos and stuff like that. So just keep people in the loop on what's going on.
So Vincent, describe to everybody, what would you call yourself? Are you a musician, guitarist? Are you both, an arranger? What would you call yourself?
Yeah, I honestly these days I wear a couple hats, but I really enjoy doing my artist thing, which is obviously I write music and I have a couple records out, and I like to do live shows with my band for that. I'm also a studio and live guitarist, so I get hired to play on different people's tracks as well as just sending stuff out from my home here in Nashville, and yeah, I also do some arranging as well for just different projects, some producing stuff. So
So
yeah,
you
like
do have a lot of hats and you stay busy.
yes, yeah, and that's how I stay busy is wearing all those hats. So does tend to fill up the day, and it works out perfect. So
All right, so Vincent, you mentioned some of your music and albums. How many albums do you have? Because last we talked, I think you had one maybe, or you had some releases. That was a few years ago now, probably 5 years or more since I last talked to you. So do you have two
yeah,
albums, and where can they find them? Bandcamp, Spotify, what's the deal?
yeah. No, it's funny because when we talked, it was again we were talking about COVID, and so I think I was releasing some singles at that point. But yeah, I have a total of about 3 records out now. One of them's an EP, so thank you. Yes. And so yes, I have one I released way back in 2018. My self-titled record came out in 2021, and then my most recent EP is called Reset, and I released that in April of last year. So yeah, it's pretty new, and I've still been writing some new stuff as well. But yeah, all those can be found on Spotify, Apple Music, all the streaming services, wherever you listen to your music, you can find it. So
I'll put them up on the screen and people can see the images so that way when they get on Spotify, it can help them identify you quickly and stuff, you know. And
yeah, yeah.
so, what type of music would you consider these genres? Because us listeners love to label everything, you know.
Yeah.
So, would it be jazzy, rocky, bluesy? Would it be a combo fusion? What are you doing on some of these albums?
Yeah, my original stuff, it's funny, I joke with my friend who's also happens to be my producer, Jaron. He's a really good dude, very talented, and we joke a lot about my genre just because it's kind of like a mix between folk and pocket. So we call it folk pocket because, it's like the folk elements, having that lyrical songwriting aspect and like, storytelling, but presented in like a format where you have like some cool drum stuff going on and some more electric guitar oriented things. Um, but like the heart and soul of it is really rooted around that kind of like folkier Americana genre, I would say. So yeah.
Are you singing on them? Because I know
Yes.
the answer to these questions because I listen to it. But so you are singing on it, and would you
hmm
consider singing? Would you be somebody who would show up on somebody's album and help backing tracks, or sing with somebody on track and not play guitar, or would you prefer to play guitar, or or is it just any or?
Yeah, I mean, typically I've really only sang for my original stuff, but when I play with other artists live, I also, I do harmonies and backing vocals for them as well. Most of my studio work is rooted around guitar as of right now, but obviously singing I still do, and I'm available for that kind of work as well.
All right, now Vincent, years ago, your main influence seemed to be John Mayer. When I used to talk to you years ago, you were always talking about him, and of course, I mean, any of us guitar guys are totally interested in John Mayer. But as time's gone
Yeah.
on, I've liked like Joey Landreth and
Oh yeah.
Adam Millers and the Adam Levies, and and the list goes on, and so what's has anything changed since I last talked to you about 5 years ago? Do you have any other influences now that come into your life the last year or two, especially since you're out in Nashville area?
Oh, definitely. I mean, the funny thing is, like, again, you mentioned being in Nashville, it's amazing because you can walk into like any bar, any, venue, and there's going to be somebody that's like really dang good. So it's cool. I like finding inspiration from my peers as well over at, Belmont, because I'm still in the program over there. So yeah, but I would say like as far as players I listen to, I mean Joey Landreth, you said he's great. Um, I've always been a huge fan of Carlos Santana, Gary Moore. Those are, just as far as phrasing goes for soloing, like they've really kind of cemented that whole thing of like making the guitar sound like a voice. Um, but yeah, I would say like my most recent influence for guitar playing is probably Julian Lage. Been getting into his stuff a lot. He's awesome, and it's super inspiring. I love watching his videos because the stuff he does live is pretty amazing. It's not easy to do, and he comes up with all of it on the spot. So it's pretty
So we
cool.
call that improv, don't we?
We
You
do.
know.
That's
Yeah.
that
So
is.
what? Explain to some of the viewers, because not all the viewers are guitarists or musicians. We have a lot of different viewers that are just interested in these interviews and they're like gleaning from all you guys out there. Because we have ideas when we hear music. We just think, oh, you go to a studio, you make a record, you make a lot of money. You go, that's just how it works. But there's so much work behind being a musician and an arranger. So let's talk about that for a minute. Um, you because you mentioned a school a minute
Yeah.
ago, right? So what's
Yes.
the school, first off, before we answer all those questions, what's the school you're going to or been
I go
going
to
to?
Belmont University. Um, and so I'm in my last semester right now, actually. I'll be graduating in May. which I'm stoked about. Also a little concerned about, but it's it's all good. It's all good stuff.
What's the
So
major?
yeah, my major is commercial music, and obviously on guitar is what I focus on. Um, my emphasis in that major is music technology, so just working with DAWs, doing production, kind of helps with like the session thing, obviously thinking like a producer, just all that good stuff. So
So back to the other thing you mentioned. You mentioned Julian Lage and why you like him, right? So some of these people are not
hmm
musicians watching the show. What makes watching Julian Lage more interesting than maybe just listening?
yeah, and I think this goes just for any guitarist. Like I enjoy the visual aspect of like seeing what they're doing, um, and the way that their fingers move across the fretboard. So much of like a guitar's tone is based around where you play the notes because there's a million different places to play each note. And so it's a matter of like choosing the string that really gives it like the kind of tone. And so for Julian, like his playing is pretty dialed in. Like you could tell there's not really much hindrance between what he's thinking and what he's playing. So I mean that's definitely one of the things I really enjoy about watching him and like especially with like some of the other guys too, like Gary Moore and Santana, like seeing them play is also very cool just because you can tell, in the live videos, obviously Gary Moore has passed away, unfortunately, but I still go back and watch the old live videos because I enjoy, hearing him play and yeah, it's a really cool experience. Makes you feel like you were there.
So I take it you're finding from watching it, you can see the dynamics happening.
Yeah.
So like, like what are they hybrid picking? Are they plucking? Or where they're approaching the neck? How are they sliding and how are they doing things, right? So that percussive aspect of guitars I like to talk to people about that
Yeah.
don't play guitar. People don't think about guitar as being a percussive instrument. Then I play acoustic guitar, especially acoustic, even more than electric. And you just, there's the Tappan, the Tommy Emmanuel, the Phil Kiggies, all them type of guys.
Yeah.
The list goes on. And you've that percussive aspect that comes through a guitar. People don't understand.
Oh
My
yeah.
friend Nana was over the other day and he was talking to my wife about being at Chicago Music Exchange up in Chicago. And he was playing a Gary Moore acoustic that Gary Moore used to own and
Wow.
the resonance of how a different acoustic feels on your chest even when you're playing it and it also happens for strats with the open chamber in the back and different feels the weights of guitars and how you're hitting them and how you're hitting dynamics and how you're pinch harmonics and whatever the thing is you're doing legato you name it. I mean, I want people to understand sometimes that a guitar does fall into the percussive realm,
Yeah, it
you
it
know.
sure does. Yeah, I completely agree. In fact, one of the things, like especially when playing on people's records or even playing on my own, you know, you you can listen to something that doesn't have an acoustic guitar in it, and it's almost like you're missing a shaker at times because there's like this thing that happens where you don't necessarily hear like, especially if the song isn't centered around an acoustic guitar part, you don't hear really the notes, but you hear the element of it being there and that like like that kind of, sound that you get out of it. Um, and there's times when, I'll be working like in a session or something like that, and if we don't have an acoustic guitar part yet in the song, like, I'll kind of advocate to be like, hey, we should add an acoustic guitar part, and if you don't like it, we can take it out. But it's always fun having it there, just it does add like a percussive element, and where you mic it can really affect that as well. So
So it sounds like you've
yeah.
had a lot of experience now the last few years since I last talked to you, because I can tell from how you're talking like you've been around a little bit and you've been through some things and played on different people's stuff and wrote your own and you're out playing. So let's talk for a minute about the experience of moving from Western New York. We come from the same hometown, a little tiny
Yeah.
town, dairy farm
Yes.
communities, and our good
Yep.
friend Jason Moynihan, who's been on my show again.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
mean, Buddy
It's been a
Guy's
while
band.
since I've seen him. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
so
yes,
him and I
Jason's
went to
great.
high school together. He graduated from Wheatfield with my daughter, or my daughter, with my wife, sorry, and
Hmm.
myself. No, where did you graduate, real quick? Did you graduate from?
Star Point, so
Star
not
Point, so the same
not very
town.
far. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah, border.
right around the same area. Yeah,
So we're in the same,
yeah,
and people don't understand when they think about New York. They think it's New York City where we're from, but
right.
we're from cow towns and dairy
Yes,
farms and
it's
hay
very
fields, and
rural.
it's pretty
Yeah,
rural. Yeah. In fact,
yeah,
Jason and them have a Christmas tree farm.
yeah. That's right. That's
So they
right.
do. But you've come from that scenario, not New York City, Western New York, right? Small town,
Yeah.
a couple hundred kids maybe in your class or something, but and now you've moved out to Nashville and you're going to college. So describe for us, take a few minutes and describe for us retrospectively moving to Nashville. What was your emotional experience? What did you get to see? How did it feel?
Yeah, it was a really big shift. Coming from like again, like you said, Cowtown, right? Kind of and I love I still really miss parts of that too because obviously here it's very city oriented and you don't get the same kind of rural aspect I was used to. But yeah, when I first moved here, my life was very centered around school because that's what I came here to do. So my first, I would say like 1, 2 years at Belmont, I was just really focused on getting better at the instrument. And I still am. Nothing has changed with that, but I would say like that was the focus. That was the main focus. Like, okay, I'm here to get better. And and I would just practice a lot. And so filled up a lot of my time. But I also made some new friends, which was great. And like building that kind of sense of community here has really helped. And I feel very blessed today, obviously, just because I have some great friends still. And the best part about it is we get to do gigs together, and it's a lot of fun. So um, yeah,
So, did you
my
get to play any of like the open mic stuff at like hotels and everything? Because I've been to Nashville and I've hung out there and been through some of the music stores and all that kind of stuff, and the east side of Nashville especially. And so, did you get to do any of those type of things, or did you just find friends who lined up gigs and you jumped in with those?
um, a little bit of both. I would say my second year at Belmont, I started doing more writers rounds. There's not because the open mic scene here is a little bit smaller. Like I've done a few of those as well, but yeah, as far as like just playing out and stuff, I started getting into different writers rounds. I would go, get done with class and then go out at like 6 p.m. and like see, okay, where's the writers rounds happening tonight and like go and visit and meet people and just kind of network and as a result of that I just started getting some more
So, explain to
opportunities that
everybody
way.
what's the writers' rounds that you're talking about, because I have an idea what it is, but what does that mean?
Yeah, it's kind of I think it started in Nashville. It's basically like networking events for songwriters because that's the big thing here is people write music for other artists and so it's kind of a like different I would say different bars have them on different nights and like um, it's basically the setting is you have like 3 or 4 songwriters kind of like lined up on stools. And so, each one, like they'll have like a 7 p.m. round and there will be 4 songwriters. And so, you just kind of go down the line. Each person plays a song, goes back to the top, and usually like 3 runarounds of that. And then it's the next group of songwriters. So, it's cool. You get to hear a lot of good music and meet people, and it's a good
Yeah,
time.
I'm sure you could learn a lot in those types of settings, right? Compared to like being in Sanborn.
Yeah, it's just different. I did a lot of gigging in Buffalo too, pretty decent amount for being in high school. I just kind of I was always like every weekend it was kind of a thing. It's like, okay, time to break out the guitar and go play a 3 hour set at this place or this place. And I loved it. I enjoyed doing that a lot too. And it's kind of found a way back into my life because I still do that here. And um, yeah, I mean I would say like being in Buffalo was a good way to build up some of those skills, of playing for long amounts of time and you know, and just kind of building up the stamina almost. So
Like AJ, you remember, AJ Tetzloff and all them guys,
yes,
right? Yeah,
yeah,
like he
I
used
haven't
to go
seen
out
him
and
in a
just
while.
play for hours, man, and kill
Yeah,
it and stuff. Yeah, and work the crowd and get the tips and yeah.
yeah,
But here's the thing: is you mentioned studio work, and now you're mentioning out there playing live in bands. Do you
yeah.
have a preference at the moment, or are I know you're well rounded and I know you're well versed, so I see you as possibly being one of them guys that could do either. But if you had to choose, like, all right, Vincent, this weekend I've got a gig open in a studio or I've got a gig at a bar, which one are you taking?
Yeah. Uh, Depends on the gig, right?
Yeah, good answer.
Um, yeah, no, I honestly I don't think I could pick one because I love doing them both so much. And you know, the great thing about it too is usually for the studio stuff, like I've done most of those during the day, so I could, you know, go do that during the day and then go play gig at night, you know, and get the best of both worlds. So I love doing both of them. They're both, you know, equally their own thing. The thing I love about studio is just the creative aspect of it. That's the fun part for me. But there's also that happens in a live setting, and so yeah.
And let's talk about that for a second, because a lot of us watch Tom Bukovac,
Yes, yeah,
Uncle
he's
Larry.
great.
So I'm wearing a Guitar House of Tulsa shirt. Oh, you see it?
Oh,
But
okay,
yeah.
yeah, very
So
cool.
Drew Wynn is one of Tom Bukovac's main guys. They're good friends. So Drew Wynn owns Guitar House of Tulsa and another store in Stillwater, Oklahoma. And Drew Wynn travels all around, and he's been on what's that show? The PBS show where people bring all their stuff and they get it looked
Oh
at and
yeah.
assessed. You know what I'm talking about? So he's
Oh,
been on that.
Antique Roadshow?
Antique
Is that
Roadshow.
it?
So
Yeah.
Drew's been on Antique Roadshow because he's like
Very
a
cool.
Gibson Martin acoustic guy, that level. And so,
Yeah.
anyways, Drew Wynn, I like to plug his album. Drew Wynn had Tom Bukovac and Jed Hughes and all them guys on his album. And
Yeah.
and Drew sings and plays acoustic and all that stuff. He's a buddy of mine. So I got my
That's
Strat,
awesome.
my custom Strat at his shop. And so, anyways, he turned me on to Uncle Larry, Tom Bukovac, and so some of the things I hear Tom talking about is the big difference between studio work and out touring. He's done both, as we all know, but he
Hmm.
loves the studio work as time goes on
Yeah.
because of that creativity and that idea that maybe you're playing around with the song, getting some things to do, and then maybe you don't give them the best right away. You save it a little bit because you're going to have 8 takes, 10 takes, 15 takes. So maybe you don't give it all in the first take, and there's a different
Right. Yeah.
mentality where live, if you're playing live on that song, you're giving it all that first time because you're up there live.
Yeah.
So there are some different aspects of studio work and the gear that you use too, possibly compared
Yeah.
to live. So let's get into the gear now. You have
Oh,
a
okay. Yeah.
guitar you were talking about before we started recording.
Yeah.
Is that your favorite guitar right now? You're getting ready to pull out?
Yeah. Yeah. I'll grab it.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is my. Yeah. So this is Well, this is my main guitar. I would say I don't really have like a favorite, but this is my favorite, I guess. You know. This is the one that I kind of just reach for in general, because it does pretty much everything I need
Hold it up
to.
to the camera
Yeah.
a little bit, the
Yeah.
body a little bit,
Absolutely.
and talk about it. What
You
year
can
is
see.
it? Is it reissued,
Yeah.
custom? What is it?
Yeah, so this is a 2014 Les Paul Standard. It's a 120th anniversary edition, so it's got all the, all the push-pull pots and everything. Um, which, to be honest, I don't really use that much, just because, like if I need a Strat tone, I'll just grab my Strat. But this is my number one, just because of the way
Nice.
it plays and the way it responds. It's just got a really good tone. Like the pickups in it are, I don't know, I've just never had to like do any customizations to it because it just plays really well. So
Is it pretty
yeah.
heavy? Is it a heavy Les Paul, typical kind of
Uh,
weight? 8 pound,
no,
9 pounds? Is it
this one's
7?
chambered. This
Oh, it's
one's
chambered.
chambered, so I actually
Nice.
don't know how much it weighs, but if I had to guess, probably like 6 or 7 pounds, something
Really
like that.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's got a really good resonance to it, I think, because of it being chambered. Um, and I don't really know like what how they do that or where they choose to put the different cavities in the body, but Whatever they did worked. So it
Did you
sounds
get
great
that
and
in
it plays great.
Nashville, or where'd you find that gem?
I got this in Buffalo when
What?
I was 16. I saved up from gig money and for, quite a while, and then I knew I wanted a Les Paul just because every time I had played somebody else's, I was just like, yeah, it feels great. It's the tone I'm looking for, and yeah, so this is my main one I use most of the time.
Now, if you're doing studio work and probably seated more than standing for live? So does that
hmm
feel a little different? The Les Paul seated in the studio playing it, or are you just so comfortable with it? It's like wearing it's like wearing an old comfy shirt to you. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
this one I've played so much, and so I know what the feel is whether I'm standing up or sitting down. I actually tend to it's funny you bring that up, like the difference between standing up and sitting down is a big thing. So I practice a lot standing up because I'm usually playing live. Um, and then, it just depends. Like if I'm like sight reading or whatever, I'll sit down because I don't need to. It's not like I'm working on a chop thing. I'm working on like, recognizing the notes on the page and playing them. Um, but yeah, that's to
So
answer your
do you ever
question.
try to stand up at all in a studio work? Those of us that have never done studio, I've played live a lot out there, but I've never really done studio other than
Yeah.
just on my little home. Is there ever a time where you just go, I just gotta stand up and get that feel a little bit, or do you just basically always
Um,
nail it sitting down?
Not really. I don't really stand up doing the studio stuff, because it's also a lot of waiting. So, like there's a lot of times when people, like if the engineer's still patching in certain things or whatever, I just don't want to be standing up for like, half an hour or 15 minutes, or if somebody else is punching in and overdubbing a part, it's like, okay, I'm not gonna stand up for that long. But it doesn't really, I like sitting down and playing because there's certain things I can do, I think, sitting down a little easier than when I'm standing up. Um, it's also just like a more relaxed position in general.
Correct.
So, yeah.
Well, I mean, you got Julian Lage, you mentioned earlier. A lot of his videos where he's doing his acoustic stuff, with his band, he's sitting down. He's sitting down playing it,
Yeah,
and
well, it's crazy because he'll stand up and play too, and then
he will.
still,
Yeah.
put you to shame. But
But there is the
yeah,
physicality, the arm motions and your natural positions, and when you're sitting down, you do get different motions for your bends, and you do have different comfort level. When you're
yeah,
sitting, seated compared to standing. That's why when somebody learns guitar as a new student, they learn seated. But as time goes on, if you're going to play out and be in a band, what you do
yeah,
is important. It's good to also practice standing up if you're going to go play
yeah.
standing up. Because I got
Have
to tell
to.
you, I know too, man. You've been sitting for weeks, maybe learning some songs, working on your chops, and then you go
Yeah,
out to a show and you play stand up. There's a little different angle and different thing to
there
do.
is. Yeah,
hmm
yeah, and
So
it's important to have your strap height adjusted correctly too. If you don't have that going on, that's gonna also hinder what you're doing, you know?
are you
Um,
one of those guys? Let's talk about your gear. Do you just have a set few pedals you're using? Do you use modelers, or are you a tube amp guy, or are you just whatever?
yeah. Yeah, honestly, I don't. It's funny, I don't like go out of my house now to buy pedals and stuff. I usually just end up ordering stuff online if I need it. But
Reverb.
yeah, actually, well, I haven't used Reverb. I need to
All
try
right.
that sometime.
Yeah.
I gotta get around to using that because I could probably find some good deals. But yeah, I have a couple. I well, I guess what I'm trying to say is I've probably like built up a decent amount of like pedals over the span of like my playing. So I kind of just have like stuff, sitting around. Like I have like my main board, which is, my gigging, slash session board. But I also have like a second like mini board that I can use for rehearsals or for just like a different option set of pedals. And then I've got stuff that just sits in my closet that's like, oh, okay, what does this part need here? And then I like grab it out like one time, use it, and then put it back in my closet. Don't look at it again for a couple months. But yeah, yeah. And then as far as amps go, I really just my main amp is it's a 68 reissue deluxe reverb. And I put a different speaker in there. I've got a warehouse. G12CS
Nice.
speaker. And yeah, I recently had that put in over at Heim Amplification, did that for me. And that speaker totally changed the sound of that amp and just makes it sing now. So I've been really enjoying using that live and in the studio. It's got a great tone.
So do you have any direct outs on that reissue? Because that's not a Tone Master reissue, is it? That's just a reissue
No.
where it doesn't have direct out, so you got to mic it and stuff, right?
Right, yeah, I
Yeah.
mic that. My miking situation for my home recording, I like to use a Sennheiser E906 and a SE8. So I do two mics. Then that way, you can either stereo pan them or, whatever the producer wants if they like the sound of one over a different one, it works good. So I kind of got like this little setup now where I just put my pedal board in my suitcase and I've got my clothes and my pedal board in one, one suitcase and it works out pretty good. So,
Pedal board. Now let's plug your the company you were just showing on Instagram. You're doing some
oh
pedal
yeah.
like. So what is that company? What's that about?
Yeah, J Rocket Audio Designs. So,
Cool.
yeah, I recently been working with them and I just kind of, they give me some pedals to demo and stuff. And so I've been making some Instagram videos for them, which has been a blast. And their pedals are great. The one that's like a staple on my board specifically is the Dude. If you've ever heard of that pedal, it's really cool, like Dumble style overdrive. Um, I think it was like based on like Keith Urban's Dumble or something like that. I don't quote me on that, but I think that's what it was. Uh, but it's a great pedal. It's really cool. Super versatile. It can do like the light gain thing, but also like the heavier. I usually use it for like my heavier drive, and you know, then I have like a lower gain drive as well. But
Are they
um,
based out of Nashville or something, or are they based out of America? Where are they based out of?
they're based out of California. Well, I know they make their products in California, but one of the co-founders of the company lives in Nashville, so that's usually who I work with when I'm like just talking to them and stuff about their, video ideas. But yeah, I think their other co-founder is in California.
So
Yeah.
how did you get that deal, man? Did they see you playing? Did you reach out to them, or what's the deal? Through friends, networking? What happened?
Um, yeah, I kind of did just like a video on Instagram of me using one of their pedals and reached out to them and was like, "Hey, do you guys want to work together?" And graciously enough, they wanted to. So, we're doing some videos and stuff. But yeah, it's
Nice.
really cool. I love
Where'd you?
their pedals are great. I've got one sitting here on
Mhm.
my desk. I'm probably gonna do a demo for later. I don't
Let
know
me
if you
see
ever
it,
heard
man.
of this one. It's called the Air Child.
Mm-mm.
It's pretty cool. It's a little compressor pedal.
Hold it up a little
Um,
bit, just kind of
yeah,
straight into the screen there. Okay. Cool.
yeah. By the way, these aren't the settings I was using. I haven't messed around with it at all yet. Well, I've played through it a couple times, but I haven't made any videos with it yet, is what I should say.
So that's a
Um,
compressor.
yeah, it's a compressor. It's really cool. It's based off of like a hard like I'm trying to remember. I think it's called the Fairchild compressor, which is like a studio, outboard gear kind of compressor. Those are pretty expensive, but they kind of found a way to put it in this little box. Really great. It's great tone. It's awesome.
Are they like the two, $300 type range pedals? What type of
Yeah,
range you think? Okay.
yeah, somewhere
Kind
around
of
there.
par for the course for that type of size pedal
Yeah,
and everything. Yeah.
they're I forget what they make these casings out of, but
Hmm.
they're like really heavy duty, which is awesome because, obviously I'm, flying with these pedals and do all sorts of stuff so they can get banged around a little bit and at least they can take it. So that's good. But yeah, they're great. They're really, heavy duty, good sound, professional professional effects units, so they're awesome.
That's fantastic, Vincent. You're doing
Yeah,
great, man. It's so cool
thank
to see
you.
this progress after all these years. And I've been following you on Instagram for a long time now and everything. So and seeing all your stuff. And like I said, sometimes I
Thank you.
send it to other people, and no problem, buddy. I love it. It's great to see that you're a guy like you. I'm gonna call you a young guy because I'm in my 50s. You know, I was raised in the 1900s, and yeah. So, but to see a guy like you know, you're tracking in the right direction. You know, you're learning a lot. You're also open to learn a lot, and that makes you, in my opinion, your potential, as good as you are right now, your potential is still outweighing where you're at the moment. So I think there's a lot more to
Thank you.
come from you, buddy. So it's good, and you're killing it right now. So the music
Oh,
is
thanks.
great. The vibe is so good. There's some of these like jazzy kind of, I call it like a fusion kind of thing where you're just with this band. I think there's like a horn guy even playing. And what's the deal with that kind of band? What is that?
Oh yeah, you're probably referencing this group I'm a part of. It's called Cam Gallagher and the Tasty Soul. Yeah, it's that's a fun group. I play guitar in that band and on their records and stuff, and so it's great. It's kind of a mix between like funk and like fusion, and we kind of get jam bandy sometimes too. So we do different shows around Nashville. We've got some cool stuff coming up for this summer. I think we're doing a little show at the Basement East, and we've got some out of state stuff we're doing as well. So yeah, it's going well. It's a lot of fun being a part of that group.
And the reason why I mentioned your potential outweighs where you're at the moment is because I see you doing different things. So you're not a guy who likes to pigeonhole himself or paint himself into a corner and where you're just doing folk guitar. You're just playing whatever country thing. I love watching guys like you, man, because it's inspiring. I'm relearning guitar in my 50s, getting back into it again. And I like listening to from Adam Levy to Adam Miller to Tommy Emmanuel to old Eric
Yeah.
Clapton to John Schofield, to Derek Trucks to Tom Bukovac's albums that he's on, so much stuff, to country music and Midland and Brooks and Dunn. So it's all over the board. If it has guitar in it, I basically like it. So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I feel like you're on that track where you're doing some fusion. You're not afraid to play some blues. You're like singer songwriter. That right? I mean, come on, let's go. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I listen to like everything, but thank you for the compliments. Yeah, I listen to everything. So, I mean, I enjoy playing all different styles of music. I get hired for different stuff all the time, and it's fun to like kind of, you know, tweak your playing a little bit to like fit a certain genre and, get used to like adapting. It's an exercise, but it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. So.
So speaking of playlists right now, what if I was to hang out or some viewers here to come visit you, Vincent, and we're just gonna hang out for a little bit and chill out, and you got your playlist going.
Yeah.
What's some stuff that Vincent's putting through on his playlist, man? What
Oh
you got
yeah.
going? Pull out your
I
phone if you have to. Let's just see.
yeah.
What's Vincent listening to, man?
Well, I can tell you right off the top of my head, actually. I know for a fact, the thing that I've been listening to over the past 3 days has been the new Jason Isbell record. I think it's called Boxes in the Snow. It's great, great record, and it's just him with an acoustic guitar. Um, Killer lyrics as always from him. So I love his music and all the stuff he does like with the 400 unit as well. Um, I also listen to a lot of Ray LaMontagne, if you're familiar with him. Um, I'm trying to think who else. Dawes, great band, if you know them. Dawes is really good. They're kind of like a mix between like folk rock and like kind of Grateful Dead, Steely Dan stuff sometimes. Speaking of which, I love Steely Dan. So
Larry
yeah, just
Carlton, man.
all
Larry Carlton's one of my all-time
yeah.
favorites. Robin Ford, obviously too, but
Yes, yeah, Larry Carlton's great, and Dean Parks also is on those records. Lee Ritenour has been on those records. Steely Dan is just, oh gosh, their stuff is so good. Their mixing too is some of the best stuff that you'd like hear that was being released at that time. Like everything is so, and I think a lot of it has to do with the production of the music and like the parts that they create because it all just fits in this like sonic space really well. You can hear. what each instrument is doing. And um, I think a lot of that is just like picking the range of like what you're gonna play, and it sits great. So yeah, their stuff is awesome.
So I hear some experience in your listening. So what I mean by that is the sonic ranges, punching through. So if we're on a sessions track and it's kind of like this lower type sounds, we've got a kind of a Hammondy or a piano with low, the bass is low, maybe there's some lower drum sounds, and I want you to punch in, man. Are you just you're probably not going for that neck pickup. I'm guessing you might punch in on like a bridge pickup or something, and find that sonic space, and let you know what I mean, and get in there, because I have a feeling, because I can tell already that you've been around a lot more since last time I talked to you. What you're talking about is things that us old guys like to talk about, you know what I mean, that have been around for a few decades and listening. And so one of the things I can't stand, whether it's at a church band or it's at a band at a bar, is I can't stand the wall of sound that might come out at me. Everybody's on the same like register, whether it's on the piano, they're in the mid range, the guitar, they're kind of like fifth fret range, you know what I mean? Everybody's just on each other's toes, and they're all at like 8 out of 10, and they're just coming at you, you know? And I'm like, I kind of check out, you know? I'm like, okay, and somebody that doesn't know music might not care as much. They're like, oh, they sound pretty good. I'm like, I can't do it. I check out. I need some dynamics. I need the horn coming in. I need the Hammond coming up. I need the music to drop a little bit, and just make it a little interesting for me. So like Julian Lage, for example, if anybody hasn't listened to him right now, I mean, I feel like he's like at the forefront of a jazzy, the jazz thing. And
Jazz but not jazz thing, because it's
right. Well, now explain that. Let's talk about that as nerds for a minute. Why would you say he's not a jazz? I have my reasons, but why would you say?
Well, I mean, you listen to him play acoustic guitar, and I mean, whether he's playing acoustic or electric, he takes full advantage of the instrument. There's like really nothing off limits as to like, what he's gonna do. And that's true for a lot of the players I think I listen to, and that's why I like, being like a versatile guitarist, like being able to play a lot of different genres, just because, you listen to somebody like Julian play, and it's like, he's kind of mixing folk with jazz and blues, and it's about music at the end of the day, making music, and you know, whatever you're hearing in your head, trying to make that come out on the guitar.
So on that note, some people don't understand this. They don't play instruments. They think jazz is jazz, and that's jazz. You know what I mean? So sometimes Julian got a lot of flack for using his type of guitar he used.
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, come on, it's Telecaster.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah, I
Those
don't
of us
know
that
if you got.
come on, man. Like, people really got offended by that when he first came out and was that big and
Really?
that popular. Oh, older guys were like, no, it's got to be a hollow body. It's got to be, right?
Well, there's something to be said about the hollow body sound too, and that's a great tone. It's just a different thing, you're painting with different colors. And so it's just, it's a preference thing too. You got to play the guitar that feels right. And for him, obviously he loves the Telly, and I think he also has like a signature with Collings as well. It's kind of more like a Gretsch inspired thing, but yeah, it's just the same thing for me. Like, not everybody's going to use a Les Paul on jazz, but I would, because it feels right,
But,
Yeah.
all right, so let me ask you too. On the studios, do you take like 3 or 4 guitars? You know what I mean? What or do you just think you got all
Yeah.
the ground covered with your Les Paul?
No, I bring a couple different guitars, because there's some things with the Les Paul you can't always get. Like, if you need a Strat sound, you got to have a Strat. I usually try to bring as many as possible, usually between like 4 and 5 guitars, around something like that. I like to have, my Tele, my Strat, this Les Paul, and then, um, I try to bring my other Les Paul as well. I have a Gold Top Deluxe. That's kind of got its own vibe too, a different sound from this. So, and then like my acoustic,
What
that's
kind of
about usually.
acoustic?
I have a Taylor 814 CE. It's great.
Nice.
Love it.
That'll cover a
Great
lot of
guitar.
ground. That'll cover
It
a lot.
does, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good sounding guitar. I love it. Plays great too. So,
So
right,
what kind
right.
of telly do you got? Do you got a humbucker telly? You got traditional
I can
style?
show it to you if you
Yeah, pick
want.
it
It's
up. Come on, this
actually,
is Guitars Oklahoma. Let's go, buddy.
yeah, I'll
It's in
grab
the
it for you.
name.
I got it in this case here.
Go
This
for it.
is actually just a pretty much a run-of-the-mill telly, I would say. Believe it or not, it's got a killer jazz tone. It's
Yes.
actually one of, I would say, my, like, as far as tonally, it's like very
Uh-huh.
dark. But
Really?
it's a great sounding guitar. I mean, when you hit
Okay.
that bridge pickup, it's cool. It's got like this nasally kind of, sound, but it's really smooth. It's not like bitey. Um, but yeah, I've had this guitar since I was like 14. This was like one of my first really good electrics, and yeah,
Nice.
I love this one, but it does great for a bunch of different stuff. I use it for funk, I use it
Really?
for fusion. Yeah,
Come
there's times
on.
yeah, sometimes with the cam gigs, I'll just bring this out and play this the whole night because it's just,
Are
you
you
know.
riding one particular pickup? Are you like me and a lot of other guys where you're flipping the pickups during the song, depending on if it's chorus, verse, bright sound you want?
Um,
Are you kind of riding the neck? Are you riding the bridge? Or are you just
I
flipping
try to
between?
stick with one sound usually
Hmm.
for each song. Unless like I'm doing a solo, then I'll probably change the tone. Like I might go to the neck for the solo just to like, start the solo off a little softer, and then when I get like digging into it, I'll flip over to the bridge and, you know,
Punch through, baby.
yeah, punch through a little bit, yeah.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, typically, I mean, for the funk stuff, I love that middle
No
position,
kidding.
or
That's
or the
amazing.
yeah, it works. It works. That kind of a thing. But yeah, it's a great sounding guitar. It's pretty versatile. Use it for a lot of different stuff. So, usually when I'm not playing my Les Paul, this is kind of what I go for
Is the neck
tones.
kind of thick on it? Is it like a C-shaped, V-shaped neck? What kind of shape would you
It
call it?
no, it's just a C shape.
C-shape.
It's pretty thin. I don't really. I like a good middle ground. I don't like them too thick. First thing I do when I'm like shopping for a guitar, I don't even take it off the shelf. I just put my hand around the neck to see if it's even worth like giving it a shot. Just because, my hand shape is, I got smaller hands, so, I got to work with what I got. And, but yeah, I also don't like them too thin really because then there's like nothing to like fight against. I like to fight the guitar a little bit. So yeah.
That's not bad. Do you use like 12s, 11s, 10s, hybrids? What are you kind of going for on the string gauge?
I play tens on all my guitars. My acoustic, I use
Um,
11s.
if somebody like is whatever in their teens or 20s or even 30s and they're looking to head out to Nashville, I'm gonna pack it up, man. I'm coming from Winnebago, I'm coming from, whatever, Morrisville outside of Syracuse, just like Vincent, man. I hear his story. I'm coming. I'm going out to Nashville. What would you advise somebody? What would you give advice to them to
Oh,
say, hey, man, this is what you might want to look out for. This is maybe something you might want to get plugged into.
yeah. I guess my advice would be, to spend time, making connections. Just go out and meet people. That's the best way, to get into any industry, you want to be in is you gotta go out and shake some hands and put in that work. But yeah, I think that's important. And then finding your group of people, good people to hang around, good support group. Just people that are there with you and help to keep pushing you forward, and people that inspire you. So. Yeah, that would be my advice. You can't really go into anything, I don't think, with like a super strong personality of like, again, like that, like you were saying, like that thing, the mentality of like, oh yeah, like I'm the best. Like I'm not the best, and I don't know if I ever will be, but it's a matter of, I think, being the best version of yourself. It's if you can be better guitar player than you were the day before, like that's a win. And I think being around talented people can help inspire that, because you see somebody else doing it and you're like, oh well, I kind of need to get better at that one aspect of my playing. And it's a learning experience, for all of it. So
And on that
um,
note, too, the
yeah,
studio work, a lot of these studio guys talk about their ego. Like Tim Pierce and Uncle Larry down there talking about the ego, and they got to put it in their back pocket because you're playing
yeah,
along and the producer, and you think you're killing it. You know what I mean? And maybe you are, right? You're like, man, this is my eighth take, and this is great. And all of a sudden, you're like, there you go. And the producer goes, it
ain't
wasn't
it?
what we were looking for. And so you
Right.
got to put that ego in your back pocket, right? And just be like,
Yeah.
okay, all right, sure, hit the reset. I'll hit it again, right? What do you want? What are you looking for, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Speak about that for a
asking
second.
questions. Yeah, like you said, what are you looking for? What's your, that's the questions of like, if you're in a studio, the only two people whose ego you need to be listening to is the artist and the producer. Those are the two most important. And I don't think ego is the right word to say, but just opinions, right? Because I mean, it's their music at the end of the day that you're playing on. You want it to be what they imagined it to be. So yeah, I mean, yeah, setting aside the ego, and realizing like it's not like, if they don't like something you played, it's not because you're a bad player. It's just because you have to play to what they want. And so it's I mean, all that's like good learning experiences. But yeah, asking questions and like being like, hey, what kind of thing are you looking for here? What kind of part are you imagining? And you're gonna, the thing is, it's like you work with all different people. Some people are like really specific, and they're like, I want you to do like an arpeggio this way and then come back up using a scale. And like, okay, let me see if we can work that out. And then there's like, yeah, just play whatever you feel like. It's like two very opposite ends of the spectrum. And I've heard other people say that too, and like producers, they have the same kind of thing with artists they work with. So it's you got to play to like whose music you're actually playing for, and their personality as well.
You know the bass
Um,
player Leland Sklar. He's been on bazillions of CDs since from Steely Dan to 1,000 albums. He's one of the biggest bass players out
oh,
there.
okay. I don't
Yeah,
recognize him by name, but
yeah.
yeah.
So, anyways, he talks about a session. He's a sessions guy. The Wrecking Crew back in the day on LA and all this type
Oh,
of stuff.
okay. Yeah,
And he had a bass with a special button, and the button did nothing.
yeah.
So
The
he's just
producer
playing his
switch.
dropping that bass, and the guy's like, no, 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 we're not looking for that. We want more
Yeah,
of that airy sound. And he's
yeah.
like, you got it, buddy. And he pushes the button, and he
Pushes
plays
the
it
button.
exactly the same. And they're
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's it, man. You got it. Yeah.
That's so funny. Oh
Or
man.
all them
Yeah.
guys where they act like they bend down. Hold on, I'll get that guitar with the better sound. And they come up, got it, you ready? And they record, and it's the
Yeah.
same guitar. They didn't change.
Yeah.
It's like,
That's funny.
but
Oh yeah.
it's
That's
hilarious.
that's one way to do it. I like doing it, the old-fashioned way, like just changing the sound. But yeah, I mean, I've heard of that before. That's funny.
Trying to talk about guitar sounds is hilarious. Like my wife's not a musician, and when my buddy was over the other night, we're talking about sound. It's round, it's
Yeah,
chewy,
it's got a
it's
round,
dry,
chewy
it's
sound.
bubbly,
Yeah.
it's got it's wet,
Yeah.
it's this, and people are
Yeah.
like, "What are you talking about? Like, what is that
Yeah.
sound?" Like,
Yeah.
you did it when you were
Yeah.
talking about your pickups on your
I
telly.
yeah, the nasally sound. They're like, yeah, I don't know. We have our own, it's like almost a different language to a certain degree. It's kind of funny. But yeah, I have the same experience like you're talking about it. Like,
Have you ever had somebody
what does any
talk
of that
up?
even mean? It's
You
like,
ever
tell
had
me
somebody
what that
talk up a
means.
guitar? They're like, dude, you got to try this guitar, man, and punch it. Try this. It's a nice round sound. Then you pick it up and
Yeah.
you're not hearing the round. You're like, I don't. I'm like, okay. So it's all subjective. And Chad Mangrum I just posted another part of his interview on my show, Chad Mangrum has sine wave amps. And we talk about this because he's got long experience with John Mayer and all them guys and how to figure this out. When they're talking to their amps and what they want, they're like, I need it to have not only high headroom, but I also need it to have whatever, this bubbly, chewy, whatever. And he's got to translate, how do I make that out? It physically happen, So
That's true, yeah.
It's hilarious.
Yeah,
So,
building gear is probably like, I don't know, I've never been in that world or done it, but I can't imagine trying to figure all that stuff out. It's a art form in itself, trying to figure
well, the custom stuff like
Yeah.
sine wave is way harder than to just say, I'm going to make 3 or 4 versions of my amps and you just get what you get. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
That's a different thing. You need to learn that, make it. But to work with artists, to custom make it. I mean, like my buddy Chad, man, it's like, whoo. But studio musicians have to be that way too. So you walk in and go, hey, Vincent, I got this idea. It's kind of like an Adam Levy, Julian Lage, this kind of drums, live sound, or I want a Joe Walsh or a Corey Wong feel. Everyone I mentioned those, you're already thinking in your head like where you're gonna go on pickups, what kind of guitar you're using. Like I want a classic rock. I want a Pink Floyd sound, Vince, on this one. You're like.
Yeah, you got to translate that. Yeah,
you got to translate it. So that's cool, man.
Even for live stuff. It's not just studio too. I've some of the live situations too. The same thing. It's like
really
this is the kind of sound I'm looking for. I want you to use or whatever. Again, all dependent on the artist and what they want. But yeah, that's a good skill to have as a musician, knowing how to get different tones and like interpret what people. Are saying. Yeah,
it is a skill set. So, all right. Well, hey, man, I just want to say thanks for coming on the show, Vincent, and I'm just glad you're able to jump on for a little bit and talk about all this stuff. It's really interesting, and all of us Western New York guys are proud of you, man. Keep it up.
Oh, thanks.
Keep it up, buddy. Come on, let's go.
It's my pleasure being on here. Thanks for having me.
No problem, buddy. And I'll catch you around, big guy. And with that, thanks everybody. And please hit the subscribe button, hit the likes, leave a comment. It really helps the algorithms. Find us on Instagram too at GuitarsOK and GuitarsOK YouTube show. And we really appreciate everybody. So, Vincent, I'm going to let you go, buddy. And I'll catch you later, big guy.